Good evening, you're watching Insight on NewsX. I'm Neha Khanna. Our big focus tonight, as perhaps the first opposition leader to do so, former Jammu and Kashmir Chief Minister Omar Abdullah has lauded the Modi government for its efforts and success in resolving peacefully and diplomatically the 2-month-long Doklam standoff with China. Abdullah has said it was even more remarkable because it was done without chest thumping. But in that same speech made at a public rally, Abdullah also made a strong pitch for resumption of dialogue between India and Pakistan, arguing if India and China can talk, then why not New Delhi and Islamabad? He said both India and Pakistan will have to make a new beginning to recreate mutual trust and understanding, and imperative for talks because the people along the international border and the line of control have nightmarish experiences every time guns roar from the other side. While some have expressed agreement with the National Conference working president, others have questioned his stand, given Pakistan's relentless export of terror to India and unmistakable role in fomenting trouble in the Kashmir Valley. The question we're asking tonight is Omar Abdullah right in asking for an India-Pakistan peace dialogue for the sake of the innocent villagers who are forced to live in constant dread along the border? Or is his argument flawed in that Pakistan isn't quite China, though they may be allies? For one, China has not been training, arming, bankrolling and sending terrorists into India to kill our people. Therefore, is it a simplistic argument given the complex reality of the vexed India-Pakistan relationship and the sharp spike in instances of terror attacks in the recent past? Or is there merit in what Omar Abdullah has proposed?
वहाँ हिंदुस्तान और पाकिस्तान के दरमियान भी हालात जो है कुछ ठीक नहीं, चाहे सरहद पे गोलाबारी हो, लाइन ऑफ कंट्रोल पे फायरिंग और गोलाबारी हो, उसका जो खमियाजा आम लोगों को भुगतना पड़ रहा है वो आपके सामने है। हम तो चाहेंगे कि जल्द से जल्द जो हमारे हुक्मरान हैं, चाहे दिल्ली में चाहे इस्लामाबाद में, वो इस मसले को हल कर दें और लोगों के आने जाने पे और तिजारत पे जो रोक लगी हुई है उस रोक को जो है उठा दिया जाए।
Everyday ceasefire violation by Pakistan is also a third area of concern. After all, we have lost hundreds of soldiers and civilians in Pakistan firing day after day. So can you have a valid, peaceful conversation when such provocations are happening is a question that government needs to ponder over and take a call.
All right, let's now take a quick look at the questions, the big questions we're asking tonight. Omar Abdullah hails the Modi government over Doklam, seeks an India-Pakistan dialogue. Is the time right for India to talk to Pakistan? Omar says if India and China can talk, why not India and Pakistan? Reasonable argument or a simplistic one? Can we really compare Pakistan to China considering the latter doesn't export terror to India? The Modi government says terror and talks cannot go together. Will the government reconsider its position? Is Omar Abdullah right in seeking peace talks with Pakistan for the sake of Kashmiris, or is it too romantic an idea? Let's take some of these questions straight across to our panel. I'm joined here in the studio by Brigadier B.D. Mishra, defense expert. Suresh Kumar Goel, former diplomat, also here with me. Amit Malviya, spokesperson for the BJP. Shabnam Lone, senior law and activist. And we will also be joined, hopefully, by Tom Vadakan, spokesperson of the Congress, in just a bit. Welcome to the show. Brigadier Mishra, let me begin with you. Now, let's quickly take a look at some statistics that I have. And these are home ministry figures. The total number of civilian deaths in terror attacks so far in 2017 in Jammu and Kashmir has been 43. Number of security personnel who've died in 2017 in various terror attacks is 46. And our security forces have eliminated 138 terrorists in these 8 months of 2017 alone. So my question to you is this, sir. Is Omar Abdullah right in seeking an India-Pakistan peace dialogue for the sake of those innocent villagers who are obviously forced to live in constant dread? Or is his argument flawed because Pakistan and China cannot be compared? They may be allies, but at the end of the day, we'll have to remember that China has not been training, arming, bankrolling and sending terrorists into our country to kill our people. What's your view?
Well, when you give casualties, I think when you talk about Pakistan and in that context you give casualties, then you have got to talk about 1947 casualty, 1948 casualty, 1965 casualty, 1971 casualty and 1999 casualty. That's first issue. Secondly, Omar Abdullah is totally out of mark. Now, there are 5 good reasons why we should not talk to Pakistan. First, Pakistan has imposed 4 wars on us, and it is all done at the initiative of Pakistan and without any reason. First. Second, when in Pakistan they say we have got to bleed India to death by 1,000 cuts.
Correct.
Are we going to talk to them? Then every army officer, every naval officer, every air force officer who passes out from Pakistan academies, he says that my service will not be halal unless we break up India. Now, when you say that, and the point was, now you see, when Pakistan can kill their own people in Bangladesh, erstwhile East Pakistan, in thousands,
right,
and rape everybody there, every woman, because I was in that war. I have opened their abortion camps. If they can do to their own people, are they trustworthy? Can we talk to them? Now, one more thing.
Okay.
Now they killed our people. They cut their throat, they cut their neck, they cut their head, and go back and claim they are Gajis. Now, are you going to talk to such people?
Okay.
Now, when Omar Abdullah remembers Atal Bihari Vajpayee,
yes,
why he doesn't remember General Musharraf, who attacked Kargil? What is he trying to say? Now,
Okay.
this man, Omar Abdullah,
Okay.
he has always talked about Armed Forces Special Power Act.
Right.
You remove it, and then there will be casualties of Indian Army.
Okay.
And he
Luca,
doesn't talk
we'd
about
like
the
to-
casualties of Indian soldiers.
Okay. I take
and
your
he doesn't
point.
talk about the orphans.
Okay.
Because they leave.
Okay, Brigadier,
What is he talking about?
Okay, Brigadier, I take your point, but let's stick to the subject at hand, which is really, is this the right time for India to talk to Pakistan? Because that's really the debate
No
that's been
time.
triggered by Omar Abdullah. All right, Mr. Goel, let me bring you in. Now, you heard what Omar Abdullah has said. Would you say it's a simplistic argument given the complex reality of the rather vexed India-Pakistan relationship and given the sharp spurt that we've seen in terror attacks in the recent past? Or does he have a point when he's saying at the end of the day, what choice do you have? This is a neighbor you can't do away with. And do it for the sake of those villagers who have to live in constant dread. Where do you weigh in on this debate, sir?
Let me put it this way. What he has said is only one part of the whole picture. It's not the complete picture.
Okay.
Our government itself has said time and again, even till recently, and we keep on saying the same thing again, that the problem between India and Pakistan can be resolved only through dialogue. But the dialogue requires two partners. We are willing to talk. Pakistan has to be willing to talk in a proper atmosphere.
Right.
Now, you cannot use a dialogue as a subterfuge for perpetrating more militancy,
Okay.
more terrorism. And basically what has been happening over the last more than 1 decade is that whenever the initiatives are taken for talks, the environment for the talks are vitiated by some action or the other. You remember Pathankot, you remember so many
No
incidents.
doubt. Yes.
So those things take place. So clearly there is a doubt on the seriousness of Pakistan to engage in dialogue.
The very
If
intent of
Pakistan
that
is serious,
country.
yes, dialogue is the only way. But Pakistan has to be serious. You cannot continue to perpetrate terrorism and ask for dialogue.
So is there
Number
then,
two.
an inherent flaw in the argument that he makes where he actually is drawing a comparison between Pakistan and China?
Yes.
Are we comparing apples
Yes.
and oranges?
Yes. The flaw is in comparison.
Okay.
The flaw is in not asking for dialogue.
Yes.
But the flaw is in comparison. In the case of China,
Because
even
Kashmir is not Doklam.
Kashmir is not Doklam, but the fact is that even in Doklam, even during those 2 months, there was not exchange of fire.
There was no exchange of fire. Not a single bullet fired.
Despite all the rhetoric,
Yes.
despite all the posturing by the Chinese side,
Okay.
we maintained a cool head.
Okay.
We continue to engage in discussions,
Okay.
the diplomacy. Ultimately, what happens in Doklam
Okay.
is a victory for the diplomacy, really.
It is, undoubtedly.
And therefore, it is
just want
happening.
to add one
Because,
point
just
what
one
he
second,
said.
if I
Yeah.
complete.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And it happened basically because both China and India, we were willing to talk and find a way out.
A diplomatic
We both-
resolution.
And we both
Yes.
realized that violence or
So
armed
there has
is
to be
not
an
a solution.
intent on both
Exactly.
sides, which
Absolutely.
has clearly been missing in case of Pakistan.
One
Sir,
more
very
point I want
quickly.
to add.
Okay,
Just
then I'll
one
go
more
close
point
together.
I want to add.
Yes.
What I want to say is that here in Pakistan, the entire thing is in the hands of army. And in case there is a talk, there are good relations. There are good relations between India and Pakistan.
Yes.
Then this army of theirs, navy of theirs, and air force of theirs will have no meaning. they will have no standing.
Yes.
There in China, the PLA does not call the shot. It's Xi Jinping who calls the shot.
I agree.
And therefore, what Omar Abdullah is saying, it is lopsided.
Okay.
I
And
think
the
he's just saying for the same sake.
Okay, so the argument that's often made is that the very raison d'etre of the army of Pakistan is its hostility to India. All right, let me bring in Amit Malviya of the BJP quickly before I go across to Shabnam Lone. Amit Malviya, firstly, your thoughts on what Omar Abdullah has said. Do you think there is a point in what he is saying, or is there an inherent flaw in the comparison he is drawing between India and China, or rather Pakistan and China? Because some of our panelists here are saying Pakistan is not China, Kashmir is not Doklam. That's question number one. Another quick question for you, Mr. Malviya, is this. Would you accept that at least on a crucial matter of national security and foreign policy, Omar Abdullah, being an opposition leader, has done something laudable, which is to welcome the resolution of this issue and crediting the Modi government, because it's something that we don't see happen very often these days. You don't really see a bipartisan approach even on matters of national security and foreign policy these days, unfortunately.
Well, when Mr. Abdullah suggests that India should speak with Pakistan, I would say that he is prisoner of a narrative that was perpetuated in yesteryears, where unqualified dialogue with Pakistan was seen as a panacea for the problems that afflict the valley. But the narrative has changed since then. Indian government, Indian forces are much more in control of the situation in the valley. The people in the valley itself view their position very differently, and they have now seen that those who claim to speak for them were actually being handled by people across the borders who had their own vested interests, and whatever they were doing over these many years was actually driven by self-interest and not out of love for the people of the valley. This narrative and this paradigm shift that has happened has to be factored in the political reality of the valley, which unfortunately Mr. Abdullah's statement does not do. He believes that dialogue is the only solution.
But
yes,
Amit Malviya, can I
solution,
intervene for just a moment? When you say that the situation, there's been a paradigm shift, the narrative has changed, and you know, the situation is under control in Kashmir, I'm sorry, but many people will not agree with that claim that you're making. Given the number of terror attacks we've had, given the number of civilian deaths you've had, given the number of security personnel who've lost their lives in terror incidents in the past 1 year, given the kind of unrest you've seen in the Kashmir Valley, I'm not sure that is a claim that many will buy, Amit Malviya.
Well, you have, at the beginning of your program, given out certain statistics, which clearly indicate that the civilian and military casualties are at the lowest, and the number of militants that the forces have neutralized is really at a peak. The numbers speak for themselves. And this isn't the first time there have been such instances in the valley. In the last about 28, 30 years that the valley has been on boil, we've seen several such instances. But you will see a more lasting and a peaceful valley in the months ahead. We will have to wait, and we will have to be patient. A lot of people doubted when the Indian government was engaged in diplomatic efforts with China, but the result is for everybody to see.
Okay, Amit Malviya, let me ask you a pointed question. Is the possibility of the government reconsidering its position as far as holding a dialogue with Pakistan at the moment completely ruled out? Can we say that? Or could something change in the aftermath of Doklam?
The government is open to dialogue, but the dialogue cannot be held in a hostile situation. Like the diplomat said, it cannot be a subterfuge for perpetuating terror and pushing terrorists across the border. We will deal with Pakistan on equal terms. We will deal with Pakistan on fair terms. But we will not allow Pakistan to indulge into dialogue on one side and continue to bleed us on the other side. That is really not going to happen.
But very quickly, Amit, you haven't answered my question about whether you welcome Omar Abdullah's statement giving full credit to Prime Minister Modi and the government in resolving this issue diplomatically.
Well, I think the Doklam win is the biggest diplomatic win the country has seen in many, many years. So if Mr. Omar Abdullah has acknowledged what is obvious, and if you think he must be given credit for, then well, we must give him credit. But I think he's undone a lot of that by making this uncharitable comparison with China and asking for a dialogue, and putting his politics ahead of the realities of the day.
All right, let me bring in Shabnam Lone at this point. Shabnam Lone, I'm pretty sure that you will disagree with the statement that Amit Malviya made about how the situation in Kashmir has been brought under control. But that apart, let's focus for a moment on what Omar Abdullah has said. He says India must seek a peace dialogue with Pakistan for the sake of those villagers who live along the border and who have to live in constant terror. Now, is that a realistic proposition? Because most of our panelists seem to think that the government of India is right in taking the position that terror and talks cannot go together. And we were able to resolve our issues with China because there was an intent on both sides to resolve the issue. But when you're dealing with a hostile neighbor like Pakistan, which refuses to mend its ways and which is hell-bent on bleeding India, the scenario is completely different, and you therefore cannot compare apples and oranges. Where do you weigh in on this?
Well, first of all, candid confession. I was very skeptic about the Doklam issue.
Okay.
With the dragon breathing fire and fury for the last 2 months, I must admit it has been a great diplomatic win for Prime Minister Modi. It is a winner. Even though with China's track record, one has to be extremely careful. But we have to give it to the Prime Minister. This one is a winner. It is a clincher. Now, coming back to what Omar Abdullah said, I think I do not agree with him many times, but somewhere we have to go into this genre. This journey has to be undertaken. I recall a very famous diplomat who was in 1966. He wrote a book, Joseph Corbell. He wrote a book in 1966, Madeleine Albright's father. The book was Danger in Kashmir. And in the book in 1966, he refers to China as India's main threat across the Himalayas. So he says that it's compelling that India and Pakistan settle the Kashmir issue. Of course, India has grievances. We have been to war 3 times.
Right.
But the fact is that if Prime Minister Modi was able to have this winner, this diplomatic coup,
Okay.
it is in the interest of India. It is in the interest
But
of
Shabnam
people
Lone,
at large.
Can I
that
ask you a follow-up question?
somewhere,
Can I ask you a follow-up
something
question, Shabnam Lone?
diplomatically,
Just
Prime
one
Minister
question
Modi
for
will
you.
be able to handle it.
Okay,
He
you're
has
saying
the
if
numbers.
anyone can, you're saying if anyone can, Prime Minister Modi can. But I have a follow-up question for you, Shabnam Lone, which is that, you know, what would you say to those who would tell you that how do you deal with a neighbor which is hell-bent on bleeding you? You know, it's not just India. President Trump, just a few days ago, openly warned Pakistan, saying, stop shielding terrorists. So it's not just India, Shabnam Lone. The whole world recognizes Pakistan as the fountainhead of terror. And therefore, the problem is that despite repeated peace gestures on India's part, and you know, Prime Minister Modi himself went out of his way when he went to meet Nawaz Sharif in Lahore on his birthday, and you know how they reciprocated with Pathankot. So what do you deal? How do you deal with such a difficult neighbor who's hell-bent on being hostile to you? Isn't that the problem?
You see, first of all, let us all address the issue in a systematic and a realist way. Now, if we take strong positions, extreme positions, then we'll reach nowhere. After all, this bloodletting has to stop. See, Jawans die every day. In Kashmir, you have deaths every day. Didn't you see that picture which has gone viral of that small girl, of that slain policeman?
Yes.
She tears your heart out.
Yes.
Those heartbreaking pictures, they are our daily dose of life in Kashmir.
Right.
Somewhere, this bloodletting has to stop.
Okay.
We all have to stop taking extreme positions.
All right.
of us.
All
I'm
right.
talking for myself,
Okay.
and I'm talking for all the learned panelists.
All right. Mr.
Somewhere,
Gul, okay.
some policy has to be evolved, and it should be the Kashmir policy from New Delhi. Why Pakistan? It will never stop. There have been wars.
The
Now,
problem,
how you
Shabnam
could have
Lone,
countered
is
it?
that India
You
has
could have countered
repeatedly
it
made
if New
gestures
Delhi
of
had a
peace,
specific
but they've
Kashmir policy.
always been met with acts of war and hostility by Pakistan. That is the problem here. So,
India's gestures of peace to Pakistan I'm not talking about. I'm talking about what could have been set right in Kashmir.
That is a different issue. That's the domestic angle. But here we are talking about holding a dialogue with Pakistan.
But
what you are talking about, Shabnam Loan, is the internal dimension. And I take your point that it is something that needs to be addressed politically. But we are on the subject of whether India should be engaging with Pakistan at this time. Suresh Goel. Now, Omar Abdullah makes the argument that people along the international border and line of control have been having nightmarish experiences whenever guns roared from across, and their plight cannot be felt in New Delhi or television studios that keep on indulging in jingoism. Now, I would like to just clarify for our viewers that we are not studio gladiators.
Sorry.
That we are not studio gladiators and we are not indulging in warmongering. No, we don't want war.
I think that was emotional blackmail.
Okay. But having said that, do you think there's an element of truth in what he's saying, at least as far as talking about the plight of those villagers and Kashmiris is concerned?
Let me put it this way.
Okay.
We as citizens of India, we as civilians, we as diplomats, people who are working in the studios, we are fully sympathetic to the sufferings and the miseries those people on the border are going through.
Okay.
Because there are people really who on this side of the international border,
right.
They are our people, they suffer.
Yes.
But we are not entirely responsible for what is happening to them. This is happening basically because of the shelling from the Pakistani positions across the line of control,
right.
or from the international border.
Right.
And the action taken by the security forces in India
yes.
is essentially to stop that from happening.
Okay.
Therefore, while I sympathize with what Omar Abdullah is saying,
okay.
but to hold Indian security forces responsible for that, that's a bit of a stretch, really.
All right, bit of a stretch. Brigadier Mishra, I will give you the last word, but before that, I want to get a quick comment in from Amit Malviya.
On the border, everyone is suffering, citizens in general.
Yes,
sir.
that cannot be denied, but we also have to understand who is behind the violence and the suffering that is being inflicted on the people of Kashmir. I think that is not something we should lose sight of, Shabnam Loan. All right, I want to get a quick word in from Amit Malviya. Amit Malviya...
You were asking me...
So I'll come to you in just a moment. I want to give you the last word. Okay, one second. Okay.
Don't our citizens in Kashmir die? I say for the entire country, not only on the border.
I take your larger point, but Amit Malviya, my question is, the Modi government has said repeatedly, talks and terror cannot go together. But how do you react to the fact that whether it's Omar Abdullah or whether it's your own ally, Mehbooba Mufti, who not only has been strongly advocating the need to talk to Pakistan, but they also constantly keep invoking Vajpayee and his great peace initiatives with Pakistan?
Well, what we are seeing today is an extension of the Vajpayee policy on the Kashmir. It is for perhaps Omar Abdullah to understand how it is being played out now and what is the new narrative and what is the new template of dealing with this problem. As far as the PDP is concerned, the PDP is our ally in the state. There is a common minimum program under which we are working, and they are very well on board with us in terms of how we are tackling the situation.
But
remember, at the end of it, it's the people of Kashmir
okay.
who are at the heart of the central government. It is them that we want to
But Amit Malviya, I'll have to remind you that there are several contradictions that beset this alliance. That's not something you can forget. We're running out of time. Brigadier Mishra, I'll give you the last word. Wrap up this debate for us.
I think first I'll come to the subject. What Omar Abdullah has said, it doesn't make me go gaga or go gang ho.
Okay.
I think it's a platitude, and he's just trying to address his constituency.
Okay.
He has lost in elections, and now he wants to bounce back. So
it's
what
a political statement you're saying.
So it's platitude, total platitude.
Okay.
That is one. Second, what India has not done,
very quickly, sir.
What India has not done in making good relationship with Pakistan.
All right.
Modi ji, Prime Minister, he went to Raivin.
Yes.
Uninvited. And he just went on his own initiative.
Exactly.
Can there be any better example than that?
I agree.
And third one is
yes,
this sub-conventional warfare which is going on there,
yes.
it is not only our doing.
Yes.
And third, saying that bloodshed is not, the pain of bloodshed is not felt
yes.
in India, Delhi.
Yes.
When the soldiers are dying, they are going through the hinterland. Everybody is feeling that.
Of course.
So I think Pakistan needs to be broken up. Only then they will agree to a ceasefire.
All right, all right. On that note, I'd like to wrap up this debate. I think at the end of the day, the question really that stares us in the face is how do you deal with a neighbor that is determined to be hostile to you and that's determined to bleed you? That really is the big question that perhaps even the government of India will need to confront every time this topic of whether to engage with Pakistan comes up. Well, with that, it's a wrap on the show. Thanks so much for watching and thanks to our panelists for joining us. Up next, Nation at 9 with Rishabh Gulati.